Hello. Hi, Cherie.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so before we start, we're just going to bow our heads for prayer and then we'll begin. Father God, we thank you so much for your awesome protection. We thank you for your love. We thank you for just being such an amazing God. Now, as we're about to go into this, I pray that you will continue to lead and guide. And when all is said and done, that your name will be glorified in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so
I'm hot.
it's very hot. I'm not complaining though, because I love the sunshine.
Yeah, me too.
So it's the last episode of the season. I know. It has been very emotional and empowering and an all-round amazing journey. So many of you have been in contact, stating how blessed you've been by the show, pulling out your notepads and, taking hours to watch it, even though we're on for what, an hour, maybe hour and a half sometimes. It takes hours because, it's just people are just sharing, stopping, pressing pause, having a conversation, etc. And that is exactly what Can We Just Talk was all about.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna discuss what we said we would do. So I'll let Cherie kind of pull that out and then.
Yeah, okay. So obviously, we're doing a question and answer. We've come to the season finale now. So we're just gonna do a bit of reflecting and, just kind of see the journey. We just want to talk about the journey we've been on. And then we've had so many people asking, oh no, is this the last one? When are you coming back? What's going on? What's the plan? Da, 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 da. So it's just an opportunity really for people to just, send us questions. We're going to try and cover all the questions that we didn't get to cover. So many of you have just been asking about specifics through the different episodes. So yeah, I think we should really just kick off with what everyone's been saying from the beginning. And who was the brains behind it and why did it even start? Why did we do it? And I think loads of people have asked that, so it'd be good for you to touch on that.
Oh, there you go, mate. Off you go then. Off you go.
So I'd like to say that I'm the brains behind it, but it was a joint effort. Yeah. The thought process and the vision was that we wanted to create something that was kind of showing and showcasing real life. The fact that we're in a marriage, the fact that relationships are something that people deal with every day in some way, shape or form. And we wanted to create a format, to create a forum where people could get involved and people could be a fly on the wall and learn from our experiences. We could help people going through the same sort of situation, just to create a space to talk about the things that typically we don't talk about. In all walks of life, we don't kind of sit down and have a discussion.
It's a difficult topic, really, isn't it? Ones that normally, as couples, there are areas that you kind of think, if I say this, if I raise this conversation, it's going to cause a problem with my relationship. It's going to cause a problem. And I think the whole reason behind why we wanted to do it in this kind of way is because it makes it easier to share when it's just a conversation, isn't it? And then as many of the viewers have already said, it's a lot easier for them because they then can stop it and pause it and say, right, that point that Cherie brought up, or that point that Marcus brought. So it helps people.
And that's exactly what it's been, and that's we're so grateful that it's worked out the way that we envisaged it would.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you go about, how long have you been thinking about it? Did you literally just wake up and say, let's do it? Let's just ask off a group of friends, let's just do it now? Or is it something you've been thinking about for a while? How long's it been in the pipeline type of thing?
I think we've been thinking about it for a while, to be fair. It's kind of, sometimes it's one of those things where you think about it and you think, well, what could we do? To be honest, we're not necessarily people that would, air things out on social media. So it's kind of like...
I had to get over that first.
Yeah, maybe that's not the way we want to go. But to be fair, the discussions that we've been having, it's not been our deepest, darkest feelings or information, so to speak. So
Yes.
it wasn't a case of airing out all of your information. It was talking about those real topics and giving those realistic answers to those topics
And
from our experience.
realizing that other people can be blessed by that too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that you're in this boat, you're not in this boat on your own.
Yeah.
Like there are things that other people have said,
Going
wow,
through,
they've messaged and said, wow, you know, I can't believe that you experienced this too. It makes me feel better that I'm not alone.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, it's something we've been thinking about, and then it came to fruition, and we made it happen as a group, and yeah, it was fantastic, and has been fantastic.
Good stuff. So obviously we've been like on social asking questions. We've been asking just friends and family as well, just for feedback the whole way along. Like we've put specific questions on Instagram, on like the question polls. You know, I'm sure all of us have definitely put a message into mom and dad and sister and auntie and uncle and said, hey, what do you think? And it has been so wonderful just to see and hear such positive comments, and for people to share how they've been able to just apply some of the general things. Obviously, like we're not experts. We've just been sharing what we've done to try and like overcome certain things. So it's so nice that other people are trying to implement little things like that as well. And it's working for them. Just this evening, I got a message from one of my cousins, and she said, you know, just watching this has really taught me to just try and communicate better with my spouse, rather than being like nagging or whatever. It's just really taught me to just take a step back and think about how I communicate certain things. And I think, like, even if there's just a few people that have got gems from it, this season has been excellent for that in itself, really.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on is, like I said, we've been asking questions. So our the main topic for our Q&A is why bother with marriage? Obviously, everybody that was on the panel was married. Coincidentally, we're all of the same faith, but we recognise that, marriage isn't necessarily like a life goal for everybody. So I kind of asked questions like, is it because you have a positive kind of experience of marriage growing up? Like, how does that kind of weigh as to whether you think that's the step that you need to make when you're older? So that's one of the first questions that I asked is, what's your experience been? And for some people, they said, you know what, no, we haven't had positive experiences of marriage and like positive examples growing up, which that is the reality. Actually, you find that a lot of people are trying to break the narrative by going into a situation and being married to try and prove that not everything has to be the way they saw it. What feedback have you had on that type of thing?
Well, I think straight away, what you said there is an important point, that not everyone is going to be, or not everyone, because of someone's parents or their upbringing, doesn't determine who someone is. And it's important that because your parents' marriage may have failed or that sort of thing, doesn't mean that your marriage is going to fail. And that can be a difficult thing for some people. But as you said, there's people out there who've had that opportunity to say, well, I'm going to break that narrative, and having blossoming relationships.
I think as well, it's important to raise that the feedback that we've had, not just from young people, but from our parents' generation, our aunties and our uncles, and who have said that they just think that this forum is a fantastic forum because they didn't have anything like this as they were, when they were dating or when they were deciding who they were going to marry or spend the rest of their life with. And a lot of the gems that even I've learned from the rest of the couples as well, they didn't have that back then. So now watching this, watching this has opened avenues for discussion for them. It's been helpful for them, and learning different strategies, different ways of dealing with things, and different ways of because we all do things differently. I think that's just life. Everybody's different.
I mean, even through our discussion, that's been very evident.
Yeah. So even with thinking about it from that point of view, it's been a really helpful tool. And that's why we have to, we've got to push through. We've got to keep going, because if we can bless one person, as we've always mentioned, if one person can be blessed by just us simply sharing, but then praise God.
And it's a reminder for us as well, you know, don't be fooled that we all had perfect relationships or perfect marriages. That's far from the truth. But we are implementing a lot of the things that we've discussed to try and make it better. And when you do just use those small gems, or just use those minor tools to try and tweak things, with you both working at it, it can blossom into something great. And that's the important thing. If you're both willing to fight for it by doing those small things, not forcing the other to do a small thing, but doing a small thing yourself.
Yeah.
That can change a lot.
And you have to be invested in it. It has to be something that you're deciding, I'm going to try and work at this relationship, or I'm going to try and work at this marriage. And it's not a one-sided thing, because, you know, you can't do it alone. It's a companionship. It's a union. You know, it's something that you have to do together. So yeah, you have to want to work together to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I guess what's on, like, just based on this topic, like, why bother? What are some of the pros and some of the cons about being married? Like, I know we got married the same year. Some people said to me when I was getting married, oh, you're too young. You're way too young to even be thinking about that. You know, I was 24.
Same.
So yeah, like, what would you say some of the pros and cons are? Like, is there a perfect time to get married? You know, should we be putting, I know we touched on this in one of the episodes before, but should we be putting like a timeline on this? Like, do we need to be married by the time we're 27, 35, or, you know, whatever it may be? Like, does it make a difference? Like, yeah, let's just have a chat about some of the...
I think we should probably start with the negative first, and then go on to the positive.
Yeah, always build on. Yeah.
Do you want what people have said to us, or do you want
both?
Yeah. Okay. So let's give some feedback then. So, as you mentioned before, Sheree, we kind of put out the feelers to family and to friends, etc. And we've just said, what do you think? So we'll start with the negatives, as I mentioned. Then one of the negatives is the fact that you always have to think of the other person before yourself. That's normally like one of the hardest things to get used to, especially if you've been in the early stage. because it's no longer about, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You now have to be like, okay, well, we are going to do this, and is it okay if I'm going here or doing, you know?
So it's kind of that, you know, they feel that there's a loss of independence. You know, if I want to get up and go out with my friends, or if I want to get up and just go, I can get up and go.
I want a whole timeline. I want to know where you're going.
Where you going? What time are you coming back?
Who you going with? I need a number. All of that kind of stuff as well. So that was one of the points. Another point was being unable to compromise on certain situations. So again, even though we are a union and we are one, there are times that we're not going to see eye to eye. You know, you're not going to see eye to eye all the time, and it's important that you know that, and you're not blindsided that everything is going to be okay. As soon as we get married, that's it. He's going to agree to everything I say. I'm going to agree to everything. It's not that. And
that's kind of that honeymoon period that we talked about in the last episode. That there's a time when it is kind of that. It's kind of, oh yes, dear, yes, what, anything you like. How high would you like me to jump? You know. How many scoops in your tea, you know, all that sort of thing. But then the reality is you're still totally different people, and you're not going to agree on everything. So some people have a fear of that. And the negative is that, well, do I really want to give that all up just yet? And you know, that's where some people are in life, which is why some get married later. Some are saying, like they said to you, they said to us, you know, oh, you're a bit young to be getting married, because they've had that experience, and their experience may have been, oh, they wish that they had traveled more or done more as an independent, rather than having to now be, if you want, feel trapped in the relationship.
Feel trapped sounds terrible, isn't it?
That's how some people feel. And one of the comments we had as like I don't want to call it a negative, but almost like a fear of marriage was, what if it just doesn't work out? What if you're putting yourself out there and then it doesn't work out? Now, I know, like what you guys were saying earlier, you've both got to be willing, you've both got to put the time in, you have to be invested. But the reality is there are times where they just can't see eye to eye and it just doesn't work. And that is a big fear for some people, almost to the point where they just think it's not worth it. Because I've asked, I know like different couples that have perhaps been together for like 8, 9, 10 years, and you know, probably even 15 years, and they're not married, and like I'll ask like, well, why? And you often hear it's okay the way it is.
Yeah.
Why complicate it? Like, it's fine, we're happy. Like, what difference does it make? So like, what would you say to that?
It's a difficult one, really, because I've heard that as well, and you kind of think, what is it that's going to complicate it? That's the interesting question that I guess I've never had an answer from them about, like, what complicates it now? Is it those things that we talked about, the independence and
but then I think
not having to answer?
I think it's similar to, like, you know, like when we would say, when you've had a cough or a cold, it's a cough or a cold, but when you've had the flu, like, you know about it because you know you've had the flu. Like, I think marriage is a bit like
the flu.
But I think it's a bit like that as well, because you feel that you've had these experiences, you've had the companionship, you've had, like you said, for how many years, and you're quite happy just plodding on. But when that changes to marriage, it's almost like you just gotta know. I can't put it in words. It's, you just know, innit? Like, it's just different. It's hard to say. Maybe we'll have to invite some couples on next season and they can talk about their experience about that. That may have been together for years and years, and then they decided after a while that let's actually get married. And
because that's an interesting point as well, is that there's some that have been together for years and then all of a sudden do want to get married. So it's kind of like, well, what changed?
What changed? Why
did it change? Example that I can think of where that happened is some friends of mine have been together for like forever and a day, and they've just always been happy, and they have their family, their children, and like one day they were like, we're just gonna get married. And I said, like, what changed? And I think there was like a situation within their family, like almost like a reality check that, you know, tomorrow isn't promised type thing. Kind of a carpe diem, like, let's just see this, like, let's do this. And I don't know, I don't want to say, like, it does take that for some people. Like, if that's not what they've grown up, what they've seen, and what in their mind is like a milestone or just one of those checkpoints that they feel like they need to achieve, sometimes it might actually take something quite serious to just think, whoa, like, like maybe that's what I want to do next.
Good, we'll have to explore that one.
Another one that we had is accountability is both good and bad, I suppose. But they're saying that if you mature to discern where to be accountable and what to be accountable about. So, you know, we've touched on things before in episodes before about like finances and stuff like that, and accountability from that point of view. But it can be quite disheartening to some people if it's all about, well, you know, accountability. Well, you says that you were here and you're not here, and so I'm upset with you because, you know, I'm checking on you. I was looking at you on my phone, and like you said you were going to be here when actually you're over there. And so when it comes from that point, I think it could be I could see why that would be a negative. Somebody else said the worst thing about it is that, you know, deciding whose family to spend Christmas dinner with.
That's a good point.
That can be quite stressful. You know, we talked about that too, didn't we? You know, that can be quite a stressful thing, and that could bring upset and confusion and
vexation
and just break some families. You know, so even something as simple as that can be so huge if it's blown out of proportion.
So that's kind of what we talked about as well in an episode past of, you know, that marriage is not just you and not just me and you.
Yeah.
It's the families as well. So that, from this standpoint or that viewpoint, is that complication comes along with that because you've married into the families. So yeah, well, where are we going this year?
Yeah.
True.
Anyway, let's not comment on where we go this year. So then, another point that we had is that the you're just supposed to know, like you're just supposed to know. So as much as you are two separate people and you're coming together now, I guess that's where the communication kind of just stops, and then it's almost like, well, we're not talking about it anymore because you should know that I've raised that point to you however long ago. I've told you this, we've spoken about it, and here you are again doing the same thing. You're supposed to know. They need to watch Can We Just Talk, they'll get past that. So yeah, so there's that aspect too. Yeah, it's interesting, I suppose. So that's all the negatives. What about the positives? Okay, so the positives, we've had a few positives too.
Yeah,
they
I've
enjoy.
had some good ones as well, so I'll add mine in.
Okay, so they enjoy the fact that they always have someone, that they never have to go through things alone. There's always someone who saved them a seat or bought them an extra drink, waited for them after work, etc. It's a lovely, comforting feeling, and that there's always someone that's praying for you. So I thought that was nice. We also had somebody else that said, you know, as Jonathan mentioned, I think it was last episode, about toast in the bed, that they can just have toast. They can just have toast whenever, constantly, wherever, on tap, whenever they want. You know, they're not having to dust off any crumbs. It's just toast all the time. So that was another positive. Having that non-judgmental person, you can just offload to at the end of a long day. Nothing is better than that, I think. You know, someone that just understands you, that you can just go and then have a cry, shake it off, you're okay, and it's not like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with this crazy person? Like, it's just it's okay.
They accept you for your level of crazy.
No matter how much it is hurting. Yeah, and I think it's even better as well when they're joining with you. Like, that what did they say? A burden shared is a burden halved, or something. Yeah. So something like that. Same with that. Okay. Another positive is living with your best friend. It's just an amazing feeling. Being a certified and exclusive team to take on and explore life. Building that empire, whilst building the legacy together. And another one was seeing, hearing, and knowing that they will do absolutely anything just to make me happy, for my happiness. Like, you know, and I can relate to that too. I can definitely see that, you know, that. Thanks. It's all right. That you will go the extra mile to make sure that I'm happy. Like, you don't like to see me like that, and so I think that's although you can have other people around you that can kind of build you up like that, when you have that partner that you can spend that time with, who's gonna take that moment out to build you up, because they see you, they're constantly with you. As we mentioned before, they are your best friend, aren't they? And so they want to make sure that you're doing okay. Plus, I think to add on to that is they're the person that's going to tell you when you're wrong as well. I think that's important within that relationship, that person that is your best friend, yes, only wants you to be happy, but at the same time will tell you when you're wrong. What I mean by that is when you've done something wrong, or you're doing something wrong, or you made that wrong decision. They'll call you out. Yeah, call you out as well. Yeah.
I think it's better because you've just always got a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like, just someone cheering you on, supporting you, just backing case, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's really, sometimes you really need that, because not everybody is for you. So it's nice to have someone that's consistent in that way. A couple of the things, points that I had that I thought were really nice. This one was really nice. So I've always had always been enchanted with the idea of marriage, and was just waiting for the right person, someone special that I can share my entire life with. And I just thought, like, that's so sweet. Like,
Yeah.
because it's almost some people take it for granted, because I think, say for me, for instance, I'll speak for myself, you know, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to get married. I don't want to have children until I'm married, because for me, it was really important. I wanted my children to, we all have the same last name, and, you know, we have a family unit, we grow up, like, that was important for me. And, you know, I knew Jonathan already, as we kind of touched on, from school, but then we met again, like, later in life, and we got together. He was very like, yep, like, what is it? Let me know. And it just all fell into place for us. We got married. I was 24. He was 27. I was 24 going on 25. Maybe I was 25. Yeah. And it was just like, I guess I almost assume that that's the way it works for everybody. Almost. And it doesn't. So I think I definitely can say, on reflection, I was very, like, complacent with how it all happened, and almost didn't kind of celebrate the fact that, you know, this is my reality and how amazing it was and whatever, because I just thought, oh yeah, this is nice. Yeah. Married. And, you know, I didn't actually think about the fact that that's not the way it falls into place for other people. So, you know, I think we should always be mindful of that. You know, waiting for the right person to share your life with it can take a little while, and sometimes, you know, you might be waiting longer than in your mind you think you should be waiting. But I think we should just celebrate the fact that, you know, when you find that person, just celebrate them, celebrate the love that you have, and the fact that you're both on the same page. I think that's really important. Another person that I asked said, you know, I didn't necessarily have the best examples growing up of relationships or marriage, but for me, it was important to have someone that I could make a family with, spend time, and save myself from random heartache along the way. So, and for that, I know that by that they mean, like, just having that commitment, security, and knowing that it's you two against the world. And again, it's something that we take for granted when we're in our situation, when we're loving on our husbands and our husbands are loving on us, and it's just like, you forget the mess that it could be, girl. Some mad people. So yeah, I think, you know, we should all just take the time to just celebrate our loved ones and just make them know how much we appreciate them. I think that's really important.
Yeah. For sure.
So, any more questions? I'm
just having a look through some of my responses. Some people, this is, I think you guys will be able to relate with this. Some people, unfortunately, are more invested in the wedding as opposed to the marriage. So, you know, that question, why bother with marriage? For some people, it's because I want to have a really nice wedding
and put on a party and everybody get turned up.
Okay, magazine.
And it's like, oh, I've always dreamt of, and it's, you know, it's this big, like, event, and but not actually realizing that that's not marriage. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, that lasts a few hours and then what? So, you know, someone said that there is a negative, that there are a lot of people out there that are just looking for someone to get married to for the wedding's sake. Which is a shame, because you've almost got to sift through those people and make sure that the person that you're choosing isn't in it for the wedding. It's kind of because can you imagine, like, if someone,
like Sweet 16.
Can you imagine someone that's so hung up on just having a wedding that they're just like, yeah, I want this, I want that, and I want it to be like this, and I've always dreamt of that, and then, you know, the first sign of any sort of difficulty, and they're just like, oh.
Yeah, and I guess that's shaky ground, isn't it? Like, that is shaky ground, because then you think, well, if things go wrong, we haven't built on anything. We've built on the day. We've built on, you know, that amazing that amazing, unforgettable day, which
And
of
it is
course
amazing.
everybody wants an
Yeah.
amazing, unforgettable day.
Yeah.
But you know, what more do you have if that's all you're focusing on? That's sad, man.
Usually it's only one day as well.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
once that one day is gone, what about the rest of the time?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, I would say from my point of view, why bother with marriage? We've touched on some really like sentimental comments that we've had. Me personally, it was about the security, the building the empire, the having something stable, something true, that I could just grow and nurture a family in, because I didn't want disruption. I didn't want uncertainty and conflict and all of that sort of thing. So it was really important for me for that reason. I think a lot of people that don't initially set off like that always look back and say, yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, because, you know, they would have preferred when they look back to find someone grounded and, you know, have that build together. Because a lot of my friends that perhaps took a different path to me will always say, gosh, man, you're lucky. You just don't know. And I do know. It's the path that I chose at that time. That not everybody does.
Yeah.
What would you say about it?
Yeah, I was gonna say the reality of the situation, like you just commented on, is that's just life in general, in terms of, yes, having hindsight afterwards to look back at it and think, well, like, maybe I should have taken a different path. But also the point that you made, that the choice that you're making in terms of how you want that stability, that is an individual choice, yes. But the importance is that you have that mindset, or you have your clear vision in your mind in order to make the right choices to do that. Yeah, it's interesting, because again, the reality of life is everyone chooses a different path, and sometimes it can work out good. Sometimes it can work out bad. And we're not saying,
I mean, you just have to learn from the bad.
We're not saying that it's always perfect whichever you choose the first time, but it's resilience, getting back up and going again, or starting again, which isn't always easy.
One of the questions we've just had is, do you think that some people don't want to get married, feel like they may have all the great stuff anyway? What makes marriage special based on personal belief, or what marriage itself is? So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. So if you're already living with someone, you have children, you go on your holidays, you're doing all of this life stuff with your life partner that you don't intend on ever leaving, and everything's great, why get married?
Well, I spoke to a friend who has been with someone for a while, and was pretty much in that category. They intend to get married, but they are in that stage where they're not quite there yet. And the whole they are engaged, but it's the whole, it's that it's gone back to that security. It's gone back to that, as much as as mentioned, it was mentioned in a couple episodes. Was it a couple last episode about the death contract? It sounds awful, but you know, it's that actually till death do us part, like, and understanding that this is, you know, in sickness and in health, and there's somebody who is investing in that and actually taking the time out to publicly declare that this is something that they want to do for the rest of their life. They want to be there to support you. Now that is massive in comparison to somebody who's saying, yeah, I'll be there for you. It's fine, you know, and they probably will be there for you, you know, without the marriage. But when you've taken that step of that commitment, I think that's why there's so much paperwork involved with marriages. Like, you know what I mean? It is a contract.
Checkpoints. Doubly sure.
It's a contract, isn't it? And it's almost like you're saying, I see that we need to take this seriously. I see that there's more to this than just the fact that, yeah, we're together, we're having fun, and we're traveling, and yeah, let's have kids, and there's a whole oh, I don't know, how can I put it? Completeness that's just, it just kind of like
solidifies it almost.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
That's
a perfect word,
solidifies it all. Yeah, that's a good word.
What do you think about, like, I know this is kind of pulling it back a bit, but just before we move on to like Q&As for all the other episodes, what do you think about a situation where two people have come together, they're really in love and everything's working out and they're doing all of the things, making all the steps, they have children, they've bought a house and all that type of thing, but one person is kind of thinking marriage is important for me, I hope that's the next step, and the other person thinks I'm happy as things are. Like, how do you think you can, like, where's the middle ground in that? Because I personally feel like they're so far apart.
Yeah.
How can you possibly like?
I like what you mentioned before when you said about when you said that Jonathan said, look, what is this? These are why these questions are important right from the very beginning. What is this? Where are we going with this? Because then you'd be on the same page, right from the get-go, before all the emotions start to get involved, and then it makes it more, when you just can't, and it starts to get messy from an emotional point of view.
And then you get to kids, and then you find out later down the line that one doesn't want kids and one does.
And then that's why, because
I
didn't want to tell you that because I wanted you to be happy, but really in my heart I didn't really want kids until, and now we're here in this situation. Like, it just becomes really messy. And so I feel like it is as simple as what you've mentioned. Just talking, like literally just to say right from the very beginning, this is what I would like to have. That's why both of us, I'm sure you guys are too, but both Marcus and I are like, yes, pre-marriage counselling, get your pre-marriage counselling in. It is so important. It opens up your eyes to so much. And even if you've already got married now and you didn't have the pre-marriage counselling, have marriage counselling. Have it. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's so important to talk. And again, we've come back to this, can we just talk? Because we saw the need to talk. It is so important to talk. Communication is the key. It's the same with the love languages episodes that we did, the first one. It's so important. You have to be able to talk. If you can't talk, you got nothing.
And I think the bottom line on that as well is that just because that, whether it's pre-marriage counselling or you take that counselling after you're already married, it opens up a whole host of things or problems that you may not have realised are there. And then you see them, but that doesn't mean, okay, well, we've got problems, that's it, we're finished. It means there's something to work through, and this still can be worked on. It's not the end of the road.
I think my experience of it, I'm sure, I could speak on behalf of Jonathan as well, is it highlighted things within myself I didn't realise would potentially cause a stumbling block. So little things like in the way that it was formatted about how I like the things that make me shut down and just retreat. I think without that, I wouldn't have been able to identify that just without having those conversations, that dialogue with, our counsellor and with Jonathan. And actually, there were definitely times in the first year where a situation came up and I just went back to that moment and I thought, hang on, I know how to deal with this because we've spoken about it. I know that if I go at it from this angle, he's just going to shut down and retreat. So I was like, okay, cool. And it almost prepared me for some of the things that could happen in the future. I almost felt like I knew how to communicate with him in the very early days because of that. So I'm such a big advocate for it. And like you said, Marcus, whether you've done it before, whether it's 6 months before, whether it's 3 weeks before, whether it's 2 years after, I really think it's so important just so you can learn more about that person, because counsellors that are trained to do this have an amazing tact at being able to extract information and behaviours and stuff from us that we don't even know. I don't know how they do it. Yeah, I just really, really want to echo that it is important, guys. You definitely should do it.
Yeah.
So,
Next question.
So should we go on to some of the questions that we've been asked for the
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Try and catch a few.
Okay, so D, what's the first one? Have you got one?
Well, the question I had was written down. Is pre-marriage counselling important? Well, we tapped on that one already.
Yeah.
Do kids change things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They change everything.
I wouldn't say it changed. Like, I don't want to say that, our reaction suggests it changes it for the bad. It doesn't.
No.
It changes things in that you get a reality check that everything is now not about just you two. Everything is about those children or that child. And you almost have to teach yourself how to be a parent, because I feel like these children don't come with manuals. And you teach yourself to be this parent. You want to be a great parent to this child, but you can't forget that you're a wife, and you can't forget that you're a friend. You can't forget that you're yourself with your own needs. So it changes things dramatically. I remember like when I gave birth to Caleb, and like now I look back and I think, you nutter. And like I looked at him when they passed him to me, and she was like, "Oh, it's a beautiful baby boy," and I was like,
what does it have to do with him?
Do you know what I said? I was like, "Jonathan, he's looking at me." What do I do? Suddenly, these eyes were just like trying to focus on me, or like this like squinty little face, and I was like, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
Like, you need me, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But it's mad that they can change so many aspects of our lives. It changes the time we have. It changes our interaction with our friends. It changes the types of jobs that we do and how flexible in life in general we can be. Like the list.
For me, holiday. For me, it's holidays. I love me a holiday. Like, I work for holidays, and so when children came along, I was like, whoa, like, it's not just me and Marcus going and paying to go abroad now. Yeah. It's like, I've got to pay for but they're not even sitting on the seat half the time. Like, why am I having to pay for it?
Yeah, it's no joke. That paying the tax for the child that's not sitting there. Like, I can't even. I just can't.
Nah, man, not good. Another question was, should you follow your heart? Which is an interesting question. I think
that's
it's
acting
dangerous,
on emotion, man.
Yeah, dangerous.
Making decisions on emotion. It's almost like what we've been encouraged to do when you are trying to deal with your children and you're trying to correct your children. Don't do it when you're in the emotion.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like you need to take. Mommy needs 5 minutes. Okay, give me 5 minutes to cool off because I'm upset. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing. If you're going into a relationship, you can't be going into a relationship like, I guess, on the rebound of something else, because you're gonna feel vulnerable. You're gonna feel like, anybody that comes along is just gonna be the perfect person. And that then you may give away the grass. As we always say, the grass isn't always greener. The other things that we've said about red flags. Keep your eyes out for them red flags. All of those things, you've got to just be so careful. Yeah. So moving with emotion, following your heart. As much as Disney says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna follow my dreams, and I'm just gonna do everything that I love." And,
you've watched too much of them.
Yeah. Yeah, but as much as they say that and they encourage you to do that, I don't know if it's the right.
No, your mind's got to be in there. It definitely can't just be your heart. I think you're setting yourself up.
I've made some real foolish decisions before, so.
As Eve says, love is blind.
As Eve said.
Yeah, man, Eve. Love is blind, it will take over your mind.
Uh-oh.
What you think is love is truly not. You need to elevate and find.
What is it does?
Okay. That's in the mic.
You're the mic.
And what advice? I think we can wrap it up if you guys are happy to, but like, what advice would you give to someone that's even thinking about going into marriage, whether it's for them or not? Like, what can we leave everyone with from this season? Like all the gems that they can look back on, and what would we say to kind of, as like
it's so cliche, but it's communicate. I hate to say it because everyone says it. And as I said, it's so cliche, but the bottom line is you have to communicate.
And you have to communicate in the right way and understand what communicating is.
Yeah.
Communicating is not just you talking.
Yeah.
That's not communicating. You have to be able to talk, and then you have to stop because you have to listen then. And all of that is part of part of communicating. You know, like
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Really? 2 ears and 1 mouth, for real? Like you have to take time to stop and to listen. And even though it may not be what you want to hear, you know, it may not be something that is easy for you to listen to, but you've got to listen. Because when you, again, when we're talking about, you know, when you're in your emotional state or when you're vulnerable or, you know, whatever the case may be, you can't you can't reason. And bottom line is, you've got to want to make it work as well. So if you're willing to make it work, you will give it that effort, you'll give it that time, you'll give it that, even though I don't want to hear it right now, I'm gonna listen. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's one of the points you're saying. And I also think it's just such a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing. Marriage is wonderful. You know, I know it's not for everybody, don't get me wrong. I understand that it's not for everyone. But if you feel that it is, either you're married already and you're having a tough time, or you're thinking about marriage and you want to make it right and you want to make sure that it's successful, you know, whatever category you're in, and you are thinking about a relationship and taking it and making sure that it's successful and that it works, you've got to give it time. It's got to have time. You got to be invested in it. You got to grow it. It's almost like having a plant. You're not going to reap the harvest if you don't sow and sow it and nurture it and love it, all of those things. And then you will have this beautiful blossom that you've been working on, and it will just be an amazing thing. So yeah, I'm all for it. Go get married if you can.
I think my 2 pennies would be, we've already said it, and I think it actually perfectly describes like my feeling towards it, is that it's more than just a piece of paper, which you hear people say a lot. It's solidifying your commitment to somebody publicly, to them, for them. And I just think it's such a beautiful gesture to show someone, I'm in it for life. I'm in it with the contract, with the paperwork, with the signing of all these documents, and with the changing of the name, and with the everything. I'm in it. I think that shows the highest like kind of commitment, like level of commitment to someone by being that invested in it. So I'm a real advocate for it. I really am.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, we're very near the end, or well, it more or less is the end. Looking to the future, we are taking time out. This is the close of Can We Just Talk for now. We're taking time out to look at more content, to cover more areas, to cover more of the things that are important to you, tackling those difficult conversations, like we said. It's not always easy to sit down and talk, but we hope by Can We Just Talk, we are creating that forum for you guys to hear what we're saying, hear our experiences, and for you to take time in building your relationship, sitting down and talking. It's important to build your relationship. It's important to work on making it grow. Like we said, it's not going to grow if you just plant it and leave it. You have to water it, you have to love it, you have to nurture it.
You have to sing to it.
Sing to it. Cuddle it.
If you can't sing, then find something else to do, because bad singing is just not. No.
Yeah, we also want to just say a massive
thank
thank you.
Yeah.
Huge thank you to all of the couples that have been a part of this season.
Yeah.
Like, it would just not have been the same without you. So we really appreciate you guys. And yeah, so thank you to the followers as well. Thank you for all of you guys who have subscribed, who have been following us. Continue to stay tuned so that you can see what's going on and where season 2 will be coming. And you know, just continue to just pray for the ministry as well. Yeah, so thank you. Thanks, Cherie, for questioning us.
Yeah.
No,
we hope you have a little bit more knowledge about who we are and what Can We Just Talk is about. Share it with your friends and look forward to the future.
Yeah.
Let's have a prayer, guys, and then we'll say bye-bye. Dear Lord, we thank you for being with us as we have shared once again with those publicly about Can We Just Talk and the vision and what we hope to do in building our own relationship, Lord, and allowing others to build their relationships also, whether it be a relationship before marriage or a relationship in marriage, planning to get married, and whichever stage they're at, we ask that you will be in those conversations, that you will nurture them, they will nurture each other, Lord, and that at the end of the day, when we talk to each other, when we learn about each other, the only way is up, and the only way we can grow is to communicate well. Watch over everyone, be with the program, be with the future and what it holds. We thank everyone for being a part of it. And Lord, we thank you especially. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.